Welcome everybody to the Mind, Body, and Soul television show coming to you live from our Denver, Colorado studios. I'm your host, Coach Steve Toth, and also the founder of Conscious Evolution Media. We have a fantastic show for all of you this evening. We have a great guest, but before I introduce him, I just want to make sure everybody knows that we are streaming at consciousevolutionmedia.com as well as at YouTube Live and also in Hangouts. And our guest this evening is Dr. Herman SGI, and he's joining us from Chicago. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So Doc is, you're welcome. Doc is a metaphysician, a researcher, and an author, and many other things that we're going to find out about during this Conscious Hour. And the theme for this evening is one of my favorites, spreading science to metaphysics. And before we start and dive into it a little bit deeper, what if I had the power, which I may or may not have, I'm going to find out, to take away all these titles, metaphysician, researcher, author, and all the other titles that you have or have ever been given? If I take him away, what's left? Who is really Dr. Herman SGI?
Well, I would say at the core, taking away everything possible, as you said, I would be someone who is a fighter for knowledge, if you will. Basically, since I was a child, and we're talking about 8 years old, maybe even a little bit younger, I have always believed that there's something that is wrong in the world with whatever it is, with thinking, with systems and all that stuff. And there is a grander reality or a grander purpose for all of us to be unified and push each other and push things forward. So with that said, I've always been forced to study. I am a complete nerd, to study every bit of knowledge I can to be able to take a topological point of view, meta-analysis, if you will, of things in the world and present the science for a solution.
Awesome. So Doc looks a little bit like me 20 years ago, which is totally weird. And his background looks a lot like mine, and his clothing looks like mine, and none of this is actually coordinated. So this is like, wow. So when people say, or we say that anything is possible, here's your proof. Things can be so coordinated, even without having it coordinated. All we have to do is just allow for it, right?
True, although some will argue that you and I came to this decision to wear this stuff and speak at this moment before we were born, but that's another aspect.
That's a whole other conversation, right?
Yes.
So I am curious about what has driven you to actually take science and marry it with metaphysics. Because these two things used to be very separate, and you kind of bringing them together.
Yes. The thing that has pushed me to take science and marry it with metaphysics is basically, I guess I'll sum it up with one word and say frustration. Going back to what I was speaking about earlier, since I was a child, and I really did sense that something more is there, whatever that more is, and wherever there is. I always have seen that metaphysics has a terrible image. I mean, it has been damaged by charlatans, by flakes, people who just should not be professing the industry for whatever reasons. And, all this hippie nonsense. And I am an extremely scientific person, and I do not tolerate any nonsense whatsoever. So I understand, since I have been studying sciences of every type that I can possibly get my hands on, cryonics, physics, genetics, linguistics, quantum physics, everything possible to put things together and come up with a better solution for something. So I look at metaphysics and I see this terrible image. I see people professing nonsense. I see people, just go do a Google search right now and see all the metaphysical websites. They're horrible. All the metaphysical businesses, it's just terrible. So the image of people who are naive. It's not their fault, but they're naive in the sciences and they can't really battle things for metaphysics, or people who are genuinely trying to perpetuate ignorance.
So I need you to hang on for a second. Okay, so where you went is you're resisting those people. Okay, you're resisting the people that are charlatans.
Yeah.
so you signing up to be in duality.
Well, yeah, you can look at it that way, yes.
I am looking at it that way, and I'm not saying that I'm right. These are just my recent I guess I could say evolution in my own growth and own humanity. That when we get into trouble is when we start resisting something or start going for something, because we get ourselves right in the middle of duality, and there's no way out of duality, right?
Yeah, I understand. That's a tricky subject because duality, you're absolutely right. Everything you said is correct. And the problem is that, with that said, if you were to continue your life with your elevation, your knowledge, your advancement in knowing things, and I were to do the same thing, yeah, we can come across that way. We can definitely go through our life and avoid duality, absolutely. But then we're basically.
Oh no, wait! I'm not saying to avoid it. That's not what I said.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to use a different word. What I meant is allow for all of it. How about that as a concept? Is that possible?
Well, yeah, it is possible. I'm not going to say no, but I'm a huge humanitarian, and I have no tolerance for human suffering. It deeply affects me. So with that said, it's difficult for someone like me, who is a fighter for people, who is a humanitarian, to see things that are wrong and just let them be. So you're right. Definitely you can all allow this or allow that or whatever, absolutely. But you're always going to have, with any movement, with any entity, it doesn't matter what the movement is, it doesn't matter what the entity is, it doesn't matter what the system is. If it's open system, closed system, whatever. You're always going to have variables, which are people like me, who want to go and, if you will, help the advancement and the of that entity. In this case, the entity is global consciousness, world society, global society. So you're always going to have people who want to take something, with me it's science, and help to perpetuate the advancement. And then you're also going to have variables such as yourself in whatever system it is. It doesn't matter what the system is. And are able to allow things and all that. And there's nothing wrong with, your side, my side, his side, her side. It's just different perspectives. And as we all have different roles in this life, in this chosen field, this world, if you will, my life, I feel, is to go out and say, no, you're not garbage. You have extraordinary powers based on metaphysics, based on the science of metaphysics. You can do what you want to do. You do have the power for, spontaneous regression, spontaneous remission, for damaging all these different obstacles that are in your way. And I definitely want to be out there as a person who is perpetuating the science behind these things, because there are a lot of people in either metaphysics or looking towards metaphysics to get into it that are either not sure, they're shy, they're timid, and I want to go out there and say, no, the sciences show you that we have your back. You are good to go. These are proven concepts from millennia, literally. It's just the information is not disseminated for certain reasons.
So let's talk about some of those scientific, I guess. So here is, and I love science as well. However, I'm finding that because science requires a lot of agreement on a lot of people's part, it's really slow.
I agree. Yeah.
Because in order for us to agree, just look at what had to happen for us to agree that the Earth is really round, not flat. What did that take?
Great example. Yeah. I agree with you.
So I'm just curious as to, a lot of us are knowing a lot about science now, and science is proving a lot of the stuff that you and I and other people like us have been talking about for a long time. But it seems to me that the general public is still completely ignoring it. Like none of these findings exist. Like they just continue on living as they always have. Um, and we know that this computer that I'm touching right now in front of me is not really metal. It's when it's broken down, it is just energy, and I'm finding that most of humanity is still, their head is in the sand. Why do you think that is?
I agree with you completely. I look at it as, like what you said earlier, people who are advanced, such as yourself, such as people who've studied and know metaphysics for whatever, 20 years, 30 years, or whatever, and they know the truth behind it, the sages, all the yogis, the things that they've been saying for millennia, science is now proven. And you are completely right. Unfortunately, science is slower than metaphysics, spirituality, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter what the name is. Science is always behind. But now that we're blessed with this quantum physics science, that is basically like the golden science, if you will, that has proven all these metaphysics. And getting back to your question, yeah, we can go about our way and, allow things or let people be. That's true. And, we'll advance as we will at a certain speed or whatever. But with some people, you need certain media. This person who's grown up this way is going to need science to be able to advance their mindset to their level that they've decided in this life. I don't want to get into that too much, but in this life to advance to. This person over here doesn't need science because they're of a different mentality, a different spiritual level, if you will. So they can advance without that medium, which is science. Someone such as me, I definitely need the science before, even though I felt the pull, the impetus of metaphysics, but I wanted to validate it. And since I validated it for myself, I want to bring it out to those people, not to people like you who are very firm, who know these things, but to people who are, I guess I'll just say, left behind and are not quite sure. So I want to bring them the medium that they are looking for in this life, in this time, whatever you want to call it, to be able to advance them. So just like anything, when anything new is coming to an entity, when anything new is coming to a person, if someone's learning history, this person over here is going to pick up history like that. This person right here, maybe they're a fisherman, maybe they love wrestling. So if you equate the variables of history to the WWF or WWE, whatever it's called these days, or to fishing, you can relate to them on a better level, so then they can advance better rather than this person who just gets it. That is you. You are a person that can just get it. And some people are not at your level, so some people need different variables, different media to be able to advance, and that's what I hope to provide for those people.
Mm. Yeah, that's fantastic. So I'm still remain to be curious though. Why is it that a lot of the, I looked for a lot of the truth that I ended up finding within myself out there in the world, and I never found it out there, but I did experiment with a lot of different things, different religions, different this, different that, gurus, whatever. But all of my experiences ended up driving me inside of me because the answers are within me, and I know that now, and I don't need somebody convincing me because all I have to do is listen to me, and the answers are there. I truly believe that I know everything there is to know. I just have to be open to it. And that's what I'm working on that, to be open to everything there is, because I am the one that created all of this to begin with. And I do talk about that sometimes in the public, and people think that I'm very weird. And and I don't feel weird. I just feel that I am onto something. I'm feeling that I'm no longer the pawn. I'm learning that there is a game. Matter of fact, there are many games that we are playing, and I'm learning that how to play the game, how to play the game correctly.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you're kind of doing the same thing?
Yes, I agree with you completely. How it is okay. Even though I like to spread metaphysics via science, I am a doctor of metaphysical psychology. I use interdisciplinarity and interconnectivity to spread metaphysics. So I know the same thing that you just said. Ultimately, this person doesn't need me as a guide. I am completely useless to that person, to everybody. The gurus, the yogis, the shamans, nobody needs anybody whatsoever. And I mean that literally, no exceptions.
Mhm.
But going back to what we said earlier, a lot of people are not at the level where they can trust themselves, where they can revert and go back into themselves and do introspection and open up and feel these things. So they need a guide. And so many times when I work in when I worked outside of metaphysics with corporations all over the world, I worked in management consulting. And when I work in metaphysics, I always say the same thing for years. I'm here until you don't need me. I'm here to be replaced. I've said that so many times in my career. I'm here to give this person who can do this by yourself. And if you think about it, the whole creation, whatever you believe, if you believe God, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter what you call it. But the whole creation, everyone is one single source. We're all unified at the source. Individual, the set up, whatever you want to call it, the unified field, energy, nature, Jesus, God, whatever. If that entity created you, created me, created John, Amy, whatever, and we all knew that we were connected, there wouldn't be much of a challenge. There wouldn't be much of an experience. That entity, the source, put in a deliberate creation of deception, or whatever word you want to use. If you don't like the word deception, it's all just semantic. They created a divide, so we don't know. So then our experience, our journey is to go back to the source and see that you and I are created. You and I are linked. We're linked to the source. We're linked to this person. Until that time, we may need the sciences. We may need this variable, that variable to get us to love.
So Doc, is it possible? Your video is doing something funky right now. So is it possible that the source is us?
Well,
I keep experiencing that people always refer to somebody outside of us, that there's somebody, and of course religion and the different religions done a wonderful job doing this, that there is somebody out there looking down on us that's responsible for who we are. And I am having more and more challenges with that.
Yeah.
So do you really believe that there is somebody, and you can believe anything you like, I respect it.
Understood. No, what I do is with any teacher, you need to be able to speak the language of the people you're teaching at that moment. So when I teach people in America, I speak this language. Excuse me. When I teach in India, I speak this language over here. When I teach in China, whatever it is, you always have to be able to relate to that entity that you're teaching, of course. Otherwise, you're not going to get through. You're going to suck as a teacher. So I agree with you. Whether you say that source is out there, or I am the source, you are the source, we are the source, I think that you can say it's either semantics, which you would be right, or you can say it's an issue of framing, linguistic framing, which falls under psychology, which is also correct. So for example, let's say someone over here that doesn't believe in themselves, in the beginning, to be able to advance, they will need the variable to say something out there is helping me. And then later, ideally, they will throw that variable back into themselves. Someone such as yourself, someone who's more elevated from the beginning, will understand, they'll say the other way. They'll say, I am the source. So it's all ultimately leading to the same destination, but certain people will need different, like again, with teaching, you can't say the same thing to everyone and expect everyone to grasp those concepts.
Okay, so here's the thing. I recently went back to the Bible, and I put the Bible down a long time ago, because I couldn't figure it out. It was too coded for me. But I recently went back to the English version of the Bible, and I've been looking for all the secrets that people talking about. They are all in there, and I guess maybe not even secrets. I guess I could say a better word is all the truths, the universal truths are in there.
Right.
And when I began to read it, it was very obvious from the beginning when it talked about good and evil. So this whole game of duality began at the very beginning with good and evil.
Yes.
And we haven't stopped ever since.
No.
2,000 years.
Yeah.
And Hollywood is making gangbuster movies over it.
Of course.
And we continue to be engaged in the same game.
I'm hanging my head because it's disgusting. It is completely disgusting how all these different variables, I don't want to get into certain topics because I never speak about certain topics, but certain systems are set up in a way that they are best serving other systems, other people, if you understand me.
Yeah,
So,
I got it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And Hollywood is a known system. So yes, all these different systems, all these different rules, all these different reframing techniques, all these different framing techniques, all these psychological ploys, they're not by accident. They are. Let's look at it this way. Let's look at the opposite way. Just imagine right now if, let's just say, out of a global population of whatever it is these days, I think it's touching 7 billion.
7 billion, yeah.
Okay, so whatever population, let's just say 50% of them. If 50% of the world woke up.
And by the way, Doc, I don't have that confirmed. All I have is that's data that's being given to me through different mediums, and they can say whatever they want. I don't have it verified. How do you verify that there are 7 billion people on the planet?
I would take a pencil.
So the reason I'm bringing this up, because I'm going like, okay, so are we believing everything that we're being told? Is anybody asking any questions?
Yeah, that's another topic, and that also goes into another area of the population and how the world is really laid out and maps and all that stuff. It's anyway, I don't like to talk about those topics, but they do exist. But let's just say whatever the population is, even if it's, let's say, 10 people or 7 billion, 5 billion, whatever it is, the count doesn't matter as much unless it's 10 people. But if you were to imagine the population just wake up, okay, 50% of it, and understand that metaphysics is real. It is not garbage. It is not hippie crap. It is not a bunch of nonsense. It is real. It is the science behind human potential, behind what you're able to really do, how you're able to connect with the source or connect with yourself, however you want to word the source out there or in here, it doesn't matter. So if you were to imagine if that were to occur, the power that would be held from that population that would wake up would be something that you can't control. So there are certain systems that help to keep things down, if you will, because if people were to wake up one day and, understand these things, there would be a lot of issues, let's just say. So until that time when people are waking up, and we do have a global consciousness, universal consciousness, hopefully, things go a little bit slower. Science goes a little bit slower, as you touched upon in the beginning of this interview. Science is always behind spirituality, metaphysics, whatever you want to call it, unfortunately. And the game keeps going in duality.
Yeah, it does. All right. So how do you help? I'm trying to understand, and I want the viewers to understand. How do you help people to? So we've been saying this on the network for years, and that's the real question. Is I felt for a long time that what's next for humanity is stop looking for the answers. And I know this is contradictory to what you said about science, because science is all out there. But I'm trying to get people to understand that the answers for what they're looking for is inside of themselves, not out there.
Yeah.
So how do you help people so that they realize that and they actually stop? And I know meditation is one of the areas of expertise that you have, which of course I love because I meditate a lot. But talk about that. Like, where do people even, they're watching this broadcast even now live, or they watch it later. How do you even begin to tell the masses, what should they be? Because right now, the way I'm feeling about the masses is that they are completely being programmed by the media, and they don't even know it.
Yeah, there's this is getting into
an area that you don't like.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna be fair. What do you want to talk about?
No. Let's do that. No. I'm good. I won't turn down anything, but I'm careful with my answers, but still maintaining truth. Okay, to answer your question, if you go out there and you give a blanket approach for anything, it doesn't matter what thing it is. If you're, like I said earlier, if you're a history teacher, if you're a teacher of gym, if you're a teacher of whatever, it doesn't matter. If you give a blanket approach, if you're a manager at a consulting firm, you're only going to get certain results with a smaller group of people. So if you're able to adapt to this audience, then you can get further and help others to get further as well that you normally would not be able to help. So what I want to say is that what I do, it depends on the audience. So again, if I'm speaking with people that are in this country, that country, whatever, but I know their mentality, I know that they're not well versed in science, or that they're not well versed in whatever, metaphysics, or they're skeptics and they hate metaphysics. They attack metaphysics. They attack all these different things. They say this is all a bunch of crap. Then I know to come at them a little differently. So you can't just go to people and say everything is within you. And that touches upon what you said earlier. You can't just go, allowing things to be, because you said you're not into duality, as we shouldn't be. So allowing things to be. So you have to allow people to advance at their own rate, at their own pace. So you have to be able to teach them knowing that they're at this level, and then teach this other audience, this other group of people, wherever they are in the world. It doesn't matter. Whatever you teach, it doesn't matter. You have to teach differently because they're more accelerated. These people are not as accelerated. These people don't understand as much. So some people, you can go out there, like if I'm talking with someone like you, with your knowledge, your advancement, I can totally say, everything is within you. Stop talking to me. Don't call me again. You don't need don't call these people. You don't need me. And that is absolutely 100% true. But I cannot say that to someone who's not educated, who's naive, not in a bad way, but just naive to certain things, how things work, how things are interconnected, if they don't know about quantum physics, if they don't know about this. So you have to be able to adjust yourself to be able to give a message to an entity that is able to understand and grasp that message. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. And I always firmly believe that the teacher is always 100% at fault. It is never the student. The teacher must always be able to adjust to someone with learning disabilities, someone who's advanced, someone who's mediocre, someone who's average. So yeah, if you go out there saying everything's within you, you'll get to a certain level, but you won't reach the others that really need you.
Well, I completely understand what you just said and totally respect it. However, I don't know how to do what you're talking about on a network of ours. because I've been doing this for 12 years, and I just come on here several times a week and we do these kind of conversations, and I have basically let go of my need, and it used to be my need, that everybody gets this. I no longer worry about that. Whoever gets it, and whoever doesn't. And either way, it's fine.
Yes.
So I'm not really that concerned about that. I put the message out because I know that it will help somebody, but it doesn't matter to me anymore what the numbers are. It makes no difference.
Yeah.
I used to worry about the numbers so much, but I don't care about the numbers anymore because I am driven to do this for me. I'm being very selfish about this. I'm walking the talk of what I keep talking about. And the only way I can continue to be comfortable in my skin is to be able to bring to the network and to these shows my own experiences, so that I'm not talking about out of a book, or I'm not talking about something that I heard from somebody. It's actually my own experience.
Yes. You know, that's interesting, because with anything in life, you always have multiple vantage points. You can always see something differently. You and I can see a car accident and you'll say something different than I, if we're from two different vantage points. And yeah, some people can definitely say, oh, well, Steve, you're just being selfish. Or some people who are more educated and more understanding, they say, no, Steve is at a level where he understands that not everyone's going to get it. He needs to do what he needs to do to be able to advance his way and help others advance who are seeking that advancement. Because if they're seeking that advancement, they'll eventually be brought to him. And that goes into other physical, other principles as well. And
Right.
then there are people like me that don't have the show that you have and are able to be flexible. A network, anybody, whether it's you or Larry King or anyone, you have to be consistent. You can't preach a different message to this group on Thursday, this group on Wednesday. You're not going to succeed to the level that you've succeeded thus far. So yeah, you can. We're all here to do different jobs and advance at different paces, fortunately or unfortunately. You can look at it both ways, but that's how it is. And hopefully we all get to a level of advancement soon where we're equal, but probably after we die.
Yeah. Well, I already declared on the network that I'm going to be here minimum 400 years, and I have the right to change that as I feel fit later on.
Well, we'll still be watching you.
So here's the deal. So today in corporate America, the question of the day was 4 out of 10 Americans don't know this about themselves. What do you think that is?
Oh, it could be a myriad of different things. It could be the power that they have, the potential that they have. It could be the.
Wow, that's funny.
You could have all kinds of different answers.
Okay, so the answer is they don't know what zodiac sign they are. 4 out of 10 Americans have no clue.
Okay.
So since that's related to metaphysics, I brought it up because it fits. So why do you think that is? Is that because people are just don't believe in zodiac signs, or don't believe in how the planets and things are lined up?
Well, first, anytime you're researching something, you have to define the parameters. Like, for example, when someone asks me, do you believe in God? I never answer them, because first I have to say, well, define God. Because I don't know if I'm talking to a Christian, a Satanist, a Muslim, New Age, whatever it is. So I can't just say no. So you have to define your parameters. So my question would be, or not my question, but my point would be, well, you can look at it as only 4 out of 10 people believe in the zodiac or know their zodiac sign, excuse me. Or you can say, hey, 4 out of 10 signs. So you can use that, take that information and run in either direction. You can say, you know, we're not as knowledgeable, we're not as advanced, we need to go back to our roots. Or you can say, hey, we're getting out there. Now it's 40% because last year was 30%. I don't know what it was, I'm just making these numbers up.
Right.
So you can say, now we're getting more advanced, we're getting more conscientious, we're getting more into consciousness, so more people are finding out their zodiac signs. So I would have to see which way you're going with it first.
Yeah, it was just the question of the day. Well, I do that in corporate America every day. There's a question of the day. So, well, interesting. So you have a lot of tools in your tool bag. So do you feel comfortable taking something or bringing something to the show and just allow me to play with you in your sandbox? Just play with me something that could demonstrate something to the public about any of those interesting tools that you have in your toolbox?
Yes, I'm open to any questions, but forgive me, I don't understand what thing you want to hone in on.
Okay, so you understand tarot, right?
Well, no, I'm not a tarot person. I'm not a practitioner of astrology, Reiki. I'm a science person who professes the science behind those things.
Of all those things. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a practitioner of any of that stuff.
Okay, interesting, because there's a huge list of Oh, okay, so I may be misunderstanding. Okay, so astrology, physics. Okay, so what you actually do is, somebody that's into astrology, you actually prove the science behind astrology. Is that accurate then?
It's close. I actually help them understand astrology and be more comfortable and feel more empowered by showing them and resetting their mind to understand the sciences behind remote sensing or Reiki, energy healing, whatever it is, and say, no, we do have this because if you look at things this way in the world, you understand that that's true, so this can be true too. You know,
Right.
if you're able, if an opera singer is able to break a glass through her voice, which is actually true, it's not nonsense, it's through something called resonance. If LRADs, long-range acoustic devices, these weapons of sound, basically they're sound weapons that police use for riots and everything like that, they don't touch you, but they send out frequencies that are very high and they damage your ears, and they can actually damage you permanently and leave you completely deaf. So
Right.
all those things, the opera singer, the LRAD, they're able to affect an entity from a distance without touching that. So if you go into all these different variables, these different parables, or excuse me, not parables, but parallels, and you say, okay, if this is true, then you talk to the skeptic, the academic who's a skeptic of metaphysics. Why are you saying that LRADs are correct? We can affect it through people through music. We can affect people through this, through that, without touching them. But you're saying energy healing is a bunch of crap. You're taking a whole collection and saying, yes, 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 there's science with that, science with that, science with that, but energy healing, that's a bunch of garbage. No, it's based on the same principles that you endorse because you're a physicist. So you basically take whatever they come from and use it against them. So you say, okay, well, if this works, this works, this works, you need to tell me, now you need to be on the defensive, and you tell me how you think that you can say all this stuff is true because it's backed by sciences, LRADs, opera singers, and all this stuff, breaking glass, but you're saying this one area is not true. So you turn the argument onto them because now they have to defend themselves rather than attacking you.
Interesting. So I'll just bring my own example, and maybe you can scientifically explain to me what happened. Is that cool?
Of course, yeah, I'll try.
Okay. Okay. So a couple of weeks ago, I was on my way to play tennis with my son, and I stopped at a red light, and I was just waiting for the red light to turn green. And as I was in my car waiting, I saw this car making a left-hand turn. And I also saw at the same time a guy getting at the corner, starting to go across, which he wasn't supposed to do, but he did. And as he got right into the middle of the street, the guy just turned, and he was actually going pretty fast, and hit that man. And at that point, things kind of slowed. I experienced things in a slow motion. And I saw the man that was hit fly up, go over the car, and end up on the ground. And it seemed, because he wasn't moving, that he was dead. And at that moment, I felt, so my normal response would be, let's pull over and call 911. That's not what I did. The light actually turned green, and I proceeded going straight, and I looked over, and I experienced myself being the guy that was on the ground dead. And then I experienced myself, the driver that actually hit him, that I was that person. And I just looked to the right, and I looked straight, and I moved on. And I didn't feel any guilt whatsoever that I didn't pull over and I didn't call 911. I just kept going. So how do you explain an experience like that scientifically? What was I experiencing?
Well, in my opinion, based on decades of research with science, there are different variables, there are different answers to what you said. You have a story that consists of a lot of different things, so we'll go slow here. First of all, when things happen that are negative to anybody, it doesn't matter who, it doesn't matter what. If it's negative, the body slows down. Okay, so there are a lot of different actions that occur in the brain, and the chemicals that create memories, they actually are flooding your brain because your brain is trying to make sense of everything as it happens very quickly, and it's trying to remember these things because it understands that this is a negative thing because your physiological response. You're reacting negatively, you're sweating, your heart beating is increasing, whatever it is. So your brain releases a flood of chemicals that burn the memory deeper into your mind, and things slow down because you're noticing different things, because you're in a heightened state of awareness. So you're going to notice little details and everything like that. And when you notice little details like that, just like when you're at work, you're doing whatever you do at work, when you notice things, when you have a day that has more work, a lot of times you're going to experience a slower day. Now, that's a basic parallel. It's very simplistic, but just to give you an idea here. So when you're going through that day and seeing that accident, your memory is being more ingrained and things slow down, if you will. Now, because you are more understanding, more educated, more advanced, if you will, spiritually, perhaps you are in a state where you understand that there's nothing as negative or nor positive. It just is. There's no such thing as negative. Nature's not bad. Weather is not bad. Nature's not good. Weather's not good. It just is. So because you are in a level where you understand things and you just go about your life, as other people would say, that you said earlier, selfishly, and just do your message. People who get it. People don't. So you're able to understand things and look at things and say, okay, well, that occurred. I need to go about my life. And then also with you being able to experience the accident victim and then the driver, perhaps you're able to become more of an empath. Now, I don't want to sound like a hippie here, but more of an empath where you can experience other things that other people may be able to experience. And I can say this because I have been able to do it since I was a kid. Again, I'm not talking about any hippie nonsense, but I've been able to walk down the street, and I just do this playfully since I was a kid. I'll see someone turn, and I imagine that I am them in that car making that turn. I'm not myself, and I'm trying to experience what they would experience. And I mean everything. If they turn the car and they see a bird, they see the different vantage point that I would not see. So, so perhaps that is you doing the same thing. There are a lot of different variables that we can tackle. This is just a theory based on superficial information, but that's what I would come up with right now.
Okay, so what I noticed there for myself is that at the same time as this occurred, I saw other people pulling over, and they were calling 911. And what I noticed is that I just did an override because my mind wanted to have me respond the way I always would respond. But somehow something told me that this time I'm going to override it. And I'm not going to stop, and I'm not going to get involved. I'm just going to keep going. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, it makes sense, but people who are watching the show, there may be a divide. There may be people who understand and say, I would have done the same thing, or just like I said a few seconds ago, yeah, Steve is at a point where he doesn't, get into certain things because he doesn't see things as positive and negative. Or you have other people that say, what the hell did you do, Steve? I mean, that was ridiculous. Why would you leave? Why would you do that to a person? So you can play back and forth with what this person would say, what this person would say. I can also guess, all kinds of different guesses, saying, well, maybe Steve was having a bad day. Maybe you didn't really care that day. Maybe you are at a point of spiritual elevation where you really don't see negative or positive. They're all just experiences, which is correct. They are just all experiences. There's no negative or positive, and that's a different conversation because people who are not at that level, they can't accept that. They're going to say, no, that was wrong. You can't argue those people because they're not at an elevated level where they can understand certain things. So, yeah, we can go back and forth and say different variables, but only you will know the truth if you look back into yourself, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and that's just fine. So I was just curious what you made of it. Fantastic, and yeah, and I know. And I know that I'm taking a risk when I'm describing these things because people will say different things. But guess what? I no longer pay attention to that because people will say things based on where they are, in their growth, and that's perfect. And I'm not going to argue with them, and I'm not going to take it on. So it's fine. People can say whatever they want to say, and of course, when people are completely stuck in duality, of course they're going to take a side, this side or that side or whatever, and it's fine. It's fine. So, wow, this is interesting. So what did you recently write a book, Doc?
I am actually just finishing my second book. It's basically, I haven't developed the title yet, but it's basically going to be showing people the power of metaphysicians, or not power of metaphysicians, that sounds egotistical, but the power of someone who is able to use metaphysics and see things in a different perspective. So basically using interdisciplinarity and interconnectivity and seeing things in the world that are different than the average person would see. So as a metaphysician, I and my colleagues can say that we've worked in the corporate sector for consulting, management consulting, psychological consulting, and all these different things for businesses. And we're able to make connections in the business world. We can explain in very great detail why music is important to an accounting firm, or why sight, sound, smell, atmospherics it's called, all these different things are important in an accounting firm or in a fire department. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter, because we're able to see certain things in the connection. Just like someone who's in metaphysics and understands even quantum physics, whether they're in metaphysics or not, we understand the different connections. And if you do that, if you're able to think on an elevated level where you're thinking about systems, it's called systems theory, then you're able to make connections that someone would not even be able to fathom. And you're able to come up with grander solutions. So for example, if you're a consultant for a business, and you come in and you're a systems thinker and you understand psychology, you understand atmospherics, you understand music, art, all these different things and how they affect and influence employees, how they affect and influence the upper management, customers, competitors, you can do things that the consultant who only knows psychology or the consultant who only knows marketing can't even think about. So what I want to do is I want to present the information in a book where the sciences of linguistics, quantum physics, resonance, all these different things are presented in a way that is clearly understandable to anyone, even if they didn't graduate high school or secondary school for you and for those of you in dimensional waters.
So are you then let me make sure I understand. So are you mostly talking about going beyond the five senses and make sense of it scientifically?
Well, that's a
As
good
much
question.
as you can possibly make sense of it. Like for example, I know about things like, and I had people here on the network, tons of people, obviously psychics, people that were able to do remote viewing, people that were able to manipulate energy and heal people. I mean, all kinds of stuff. But
Yeah.
I am very attracted to things that I find myself attracted to things that are beyond the five senses. I'm kind of bored with my five senses because, can I even say the right word? Why am I bored? Because I keep noticing that I'm just scanning frequencies, and I keep scanning with my eyes, with my ears, what is, and I am more into the possibilities, the unlimited possibilities that we can be, versus just scanning what I'm doing right now. Does that make sense?
Yes, of course it does. Yeah.
Mm.
I've said many times to my colleagues, and most of my friends are at the doctorate level in some area, and we talk a lot about different things, sociology and society and metaphysics, of course. And a lot of times I say the same thing. It's funny because you and I really do have a lot of parallels. I also speak that I try to see things. I'm not perfect, but I try to see things in the realm of frequency. I try to see things from a systems perspective, because then you can see things much further than the average person. You can make connections that the average person can't even think about. So yeah, absolutely. And yeah, there is science behind the stuff that's beyond the five senses. And I definitely understand what you're saying when you say you're bored of the five senses. I completely agree with you.
It's so limited. I mean, my eyes are limited, my ears are, all my senses are very limited, and I want more.
You're, in my opinion, you're elevated at a level of spirituality where you're going to look forward to whatever you want to say is next, the next life, death, afterlife, whatever it is you want to call it. You're looking forward to something beyond this world because you seem like you're ready and you're just waiting. So, and there are a lot of people like you, but there are also a lot of people, more people that are not at your level. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, they need certain media to be able to be advanced and brought up to that level. And sometimes that is science. All this stuff that you mentioned, remote viewing, energy healing, it is not nonsense. Now you have to be careful. As a metaphysician, you have to be one of the biggest skeptics in the world. You have to be a huge skeptic, like people that hate metaphysics, because you have to be careful not to run with any, idiot who spouts knowledge and says, I'm a psychic, I can give you lottery numbers, or I can do this, give me $5,000. You have to be very careful. So anytime someone approaches me and says something about a metaphysical, or excuse me, a paranormal experience, I'm skeptical. I don't believe them at first until I talk with them and go from there. So, but yeah, all these different experiences, paranormal, remote viewing, even chief scientists of ions, Dean Radin, he actually worked with the CIA, and they studied remote viewing for quite a few years. And he's he is the chief scientist at ions, who's now helping us profess metaphysics from the sciences. So it's not a joke, but there are people who are jokes, who spread nonsense in metaphysics, and you have to be careful to divide and divorce yourself from that so you can continue forward and not perpetuate the nonsense.
Okay. So what about these new movies, like there's X-Men, the new X-Men movie out? What about the powers of those guys and gals in those movies? Is humanity going to be able to do all those things, or are we meant to do those things?
Well, that sounds like it'd be a good question for my friend who's a futurologist in the UK. But I mean, we'll see. I mean,
we'll see.
in theory, if you go with metaphysics and interconnectivity and everything, yeah, at some point, maybe after we die or something, we could do all that stuff. But to say, yeah, we're definitely gonna be able to do that. You have to be very careful because then you go into the area of like, oh God, he's one of those guys, you know. So I'm going to say I'm not so sure about that one.
That's funny. So how do you do you hold I mean do you I'm just curious about you explaining to the viewers how they can work with you. Do you work with individual groups? Do you do seminars? How do you spread what you're passionate about?
Yes, how I spread the science behind metaphysics is I really try to help people just wipe their mind clean and understand that metaphysics is real. And I do that via, most of the time it's in groups, so I travel all over the world trying to speak with people. I teach at the university sometimes. I also have meetup gatherings. I'm in Chicago here, where we meet and we talk about these things, and we really try to hone out the science and separate it from the nonsense. And I also do it through my book, through my articles. So basically, if you go to the website, it's designed as a portal. So everything that I do, you can find through the website. I also work with anybody, almost anybody in the world, with collaborations. People who, whether you're an amateur, professional, it doesn't matter. So I work with people in articles, books, videos, whatever it is, to be able to get some kind of partnership and put the information out. I don't care if I do it by myself or if I do it with 50 people, 500 people. I just want to put out the information. So I do it through the seminars, the speaking engagements at conferences, and all that information is available on the website.
Which is?
It is www.Dr. Herman SGI, HermanSGI.com. And I also do online classes where you can enroll into them and they teach you how to think differently. Because well, I can teach you the science behind this paranormal, paranormal activity, just like a movie, or this paranormal experience, whatever it is. And that's fine, but you want to get to a level where you don't need me. You want to get to a level where you don't need the consultant, whatever consultant you're using, in business or outside of business. So going into these courses that I create where you wipe your mind using all these different psychological strategy variables and concepts and foundations, then you are able to stand back and say, no, that's nonsense in metaphysics. This is good. This I can do. This I can do. And you drastically pick yourself up on a higher level where you can accomplish a lot more than you could before, because before you were in a different mindset and you couldn't even see opportunities that were available for you. Now you're thinking differently. You can see different vantage points and you can make those connections and live on in better situations and hopefully pass that information to others who need it.
So you basically, in computer language, you clean the disk drive and start with a new program.
That's a very good summation of it. Yes, that is precisely what I do. I am like I said, doctor of metaphysical psychology. Before I was a psychological strategist, so I helped businesses with the psychology of being able to influence targets without those targets knowing that they're being influenced. So yes, that's a good summation. I help others to reset their mind and wipe the drive. I think I'll use that next time.
So I can't even ask this question. This is not appropriate. Okay, but there was a question that came to me, and I'm going like, I can't ask this question because you said to me several times in the show that those are areas that you don't want to go to. So I just realized that this was one of those. But you did say somebody. This is so weird. It's bizarre. You did say somebody's name in the media, and I forget who it was. The guy that has he used to be on television a lot.
Larry King.
Yeah, Larry King. And I was just sitting here watching myself in the video, and I felt like I looked like Larry King. It's like, what the heck is going on here?
Yes. You look like Larry King. I look like a younger version of you. We have
and what is going on here
in this show? So
please explain all this scientifically.
We call it synchronicity, as chief
Synchronicity.
scientist Dean Reagan would say.
That's a great word. Yeah,
Where
synchronicity.
you're
I
going
love
through
it.
life
Yeah.
and you're
Okay.
expecting something that comes about.
Well, would you like to communicate anything else, to our viewers? It's kind of coming to the end of the conscious hour. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on that I may have not taken you there?
Thank you. I guess I would say you touched upon it just moments ago. I guess I would say that the most important thing that you want to recall and inculcate into your mind is that the level of thinking that people are doing now, including me, including people who are, educated or not educated, whatever it is you have to see things from an area that you're not used to seeing before to be able to advance. And that's true with anything. If you're if you're straight out of high school, straight out of college, and you want to be an accountant, you want to be a day trader, whatever, you don't think like an accountant, you don't think like a day trader at that moment. So you have to put yourself in that position to be able to see things and get opportunities that were invisible to you before. So it's very important to understand that metaphysics is completely sound. There is a trove of sciences that reinforce metaphysics. And if you need any help, I am always here and ready and willing to help. I travel all over. If I have to go to Egypt or Africa tomorrow, I'll gladly do it to help. And it's very important to reset your mind and understand these things so you can learn them. You can grasp the sciences and the empowerment that metaphysics can give you and the different mindset they can give you so you can move forward as a different person.
That's fantastic. Well, Dr. Herman SGI, you were absolutely fantastic. I just loved every minute of the show in terms of what you and who you represent. Bringing science and also bringing metaphysics together, like putting a bridge, which has been, I guess, needed for a long time. And I know you're not the only one doing it, but I can feel that you are playing big. You're not a small player.
Thank you.
So that's fantastic. The bigger the better.
Yes, yes, I hope so. Well, I have to get to your level because obviously I'm dressed like you. So, I mean, you're my aspiration.
Oh, come on. We're after all, we're all one. So yeah,
Absolutely.
we're connected, and it feels like to me that I have known you all my life. That's how comfortable I can be with you. And this is something else that before we end the show, I do a lot, is that did you experience, because there's this thing about people believe so much in time and space, but I prove on these shows that time does not really exist, because this hour for me it was like 5 minutes. If I put it in perspective, I don't know how it occurs for you, but that's how it occurs for me, and I get a lot of feedback from viewers that that's how it occurs for them as well.
Yes.
So,
well, of course, if you're experiencing it, if anyone's experiencing anything positive, it's both ends of the spectrum. If you experience something negative, your body kicks in according to your physiological reactions that are occurring and says, wait, I got to pay attention to everything that's going on here, and it goes into what I described earlier. But also the opposite is true. And that's the case a lot of times with different things in life. The opposite ends of the spectrum are true. They may be different variables, but they are, a lot of times they have the same principles. And with you, with the people on your show that like the show, with me that like the show, all these different things, when you're really involved, when you're really honing in, you don't pay attention to the time. And the fact that time doesn't exist is something that we know, anyone who studies even basic quantum physics knows is valid. There's no such thing as time and space at the quantum level, at the Planck level, at the unified field. That's something that we all understand. Even skeptics of metaphysics, there's no such thing. The problem is when you come to the macro level, which is where we're located, like you said earlier, then you get into duality. You get into divisiveness, you get into the divide, into the deception that's deliberately put between us because we need to be able to feel like we're divided so we can go back to the source, if that makes any sense, because the source wants us to experience different things. So yeah, that's not nonsense.
Well, that's duality itself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you are the epitome of not having duality. So we all have to be like you.
Well, I don't know if I have perfected it at all. All I'm doing is just basically I'm at a place of just playing with it. It's very interesting to me. It makes me laugh even more. I mean, I used to laugh before a lot, but now that I'm noticing that I'm involved, and you appreciate this, like I'm involved with another system, with another program.
Correct.
I am within a program, being within a program, and I'm just noticing those things now, and I start laughing because I used to not notice these things, and I was at the effect of them. Does that ring a bell for you?
Yes, it absolutely does. Actually, it does ring a bell because it reminds me of Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut who was the sixth gentleman to walk the moon, and he actually started IONS, the institute that proves metaphysics through the sciences, where Dean Radin is the chief scientist, Dr. Dean Radin. And when he was coming back to Earth, before he had the inception of IONS, he looked at the Earth and he felt connected with everything. And he also said that he realized at that moment how trivial the human issues are, such as, all these different negativities, whatever they are, it doesn't matter. So he was able to see the earth from above, and he was able to see things at a different level, a higher level. Now, when you go down into our level, unfortunately, our level has a lot of crap, a lot of negativity.
And a lot of drama.
You're stressed, you think about all these different things. So someone like you, someone like Edgar Mitchell that is at a higher level, whether it's physically or spiritually. Edgar Mitchell was physically higher, you're spiritually higher. You're able to decrease your stress because you realize that the little things, they don't care as much. And you're able to think on a vastly different level than the average person. So it is healthier for you in so many different ways. Healthier for you physically with your physical health, healthier for you spiritually, healthier for you in business because you're able to see things that most people can't see. You can go into a company as a consultant and have an extremely good view for that their consultants and their managers can't even think of. So there are a lot of different variables here that can come about and will come about for someone who's at your level, someone who tries to get to that level and resets their mind and uses metaphysics, the genuine metaphysics, not the nonsense, to be able to have that kind of mindset.
Awesome. Dr. Herman SGI, my absolute respect goes out to you. Thank you very much for being on the network. We loved you. And for everybody else out there, please watch this show on Conscious Evolution Media on YouTube. The more you watch it, the more it will go to the top 10, just like any other show that we have there every month. If it makes it to the top 10, it may end up at public television, PBS, or it may end up on cable TV, or who knows what else I will create between now and then. So thank you very much for being with us. We love you very much, and have a fantastic evening.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.